Hi, everybody. This is Lauren Baker, founder of Search Engine Journal. And with me today, I have Seth Smirnick of Conductor, CEO of Conductor. Hey, Seth, how's it going?
Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening.
Exactly. It's a pleasure to have you today. You wouldn't mind clicking over to the first title slide? There you go. Perfect, perfect. So before Seth gets started today, and he's going to be presenting on the top SEO secrets from leading organizations. So this is going to be a way to really get in and see what some of the largest companies in the world have been doing to really make organic marketing, SEO, and content a core competency across their organizations. So Seth has a lot of really good, say, backdoor information to share today that all of us can utilize for our SEO content marketing campaigns. But before Seth gets started, I'm gonna do a little bit of housekeeping and let any of the late stragglers that are just getting in have a chance to get situated before the webinar begins. Our webinars typically last about 45 minutes, 35 to 45 minutes, with then 15 to 25 minutes of Q&A. But while Seth is presenting, and while he's also launching 3 different polls that we'll have today that we really encourage all of you to take action on and vote on, we're also going to be asking questions as they pop up during the webinar itself. So if Seth is going over something on one of his slides, or you have a specific question that's relevant to the topic matter that he's presenting and sharing with us, please feel free to ask that question within the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. When we have a chance or a pause, or when we're doing a poll, we'll be selecting some of the best questions to ask Seth and get his feedback on. And then also during the larger Q&A component of the webinar at the end, we'll be going through more of those questions as well, and really having a conversational moment between myself, you all, and Seth to go over what he's presented today. Official hashtag is hashtag SEJwebinar. You can also tag Seth or Conductor if you can find them on Twitter. Feel free to share screen caps, let everybody else know what they're missing out on. And as a reminder, video, slides, and additional information and recaps will be made available to all webinar registrants after today's presentation. And on that note, Seth, I'm going to hand things over to you.
All right, you hear me okay?
Absolutely, sounds good.
Yeah, so thank you for the incredible introduction, and thanks for having me here. Very excited. It looks like we have a great group, and as Lauren said, happy, love to take questions and try to keep this somewhat interactive. I've been in this industry for it's a long time now, over a decade. We actually started Conductor originally as a link building company back in 2007. And we've been doing, and then we changed the company to Conductor in 2011, and we've been building an enterprise software company. And today we have over 500 customers, and they are many of the best companies in the world. If you look at like the Fortune 10, like half of them run their SEO and organic on Conductor. And why am I sharing this? It's we've been able to sit like shotgun to these companies and see. I've seen so many succeed, and we've seen them fail, and we've just been like trying to get those learnings and figure out how we can share that with everyone else, so we can have more success and really do this. So this is a presentation. The back half is very actionable in terms of what we've learned, and then the first half is a little bit more of the storytelling that we do just in terms of how we talk about organic and really how we pitch it to customers and get executives and different stakeholders bought in. So the theme of the presentation is about evolution, and I think you can't talk about evolution without throwing a small hat tip to Charles Darwin. Here's him in his favorite Conductor shirt. Very quickly, right? Darwin figured out that the survival of a species wasn't about being strong or being intelligent, but it was really about your ability to change. And the short version of Darwin's theory is adapt or die. And unfortunately, the dinosaurs didn't get that message. So somewhere like 60 million plus years ago, big giant asteroid came, blew up a lot of the Earth, hell broke loose, volcanoes, fires, Armageddon. And as we all know, right, the dinosaurs had nothing to eat and they didn't make it. However, there was one species of dinosaur, didn't look like this back then, but that actually survived, and it was birds, right? And it was specifically birds with beaks, because all the trees and nuts were all over the ground, and the birds were able to learn how to crack them open and feed themselves, and eventually they adapted and they survived, right? We all see birds, most of us see birds on a daily basis, no matter where you are. So the short version of this is when the world changes, you have to adapt to those changes. And I think for all of us as marketers, right, it's that we want to be the bird, right? We certainly do not want to end up like the dinosaurs, right? So why does all this matter? And I think it matters because we're going through a crazy change in the world. And we've been building up our community in SEO for a long time, but the last 12 months is massive, massive change. And there's a lot of opportunity that comes from it. So just going back a little bit more into history, just thinking about search and how searching has evolved. Back in the beginning of time, right, humans, we've all been searching for answers, right? At one point, we'd have a quarterly visit with our village elder, or we go to the library and look at something in the encyclopedia. Maybe you had a cousin who knew about cars or a neighbor who knew about gardening. But for the most part, searching for answers was time consuming and it was inefficient, and you didn't even know whether the answers were actually right. And then once again, right, another asteroid came, but this was a digital asteroid filled with ones and zeros, and it really changed everything, including search, right? So for those of us who've been around for the earlier times, right, we had Lycos, we had Hotbot, we had Ask Jeeves, and then eventually Google came. And I think every year since Google started back in the late 90s, people have realized that the most efficient way to get answers to questions is to simply Google it. And as the search engines got better, more and more people started asking questions, and it's really changed how we operate as society. But that's not the only thing that changed, right? There's been digital transformation pretty much around every aspect of our life, right? So when you're not sleeping and when you're not working, you're doing what you want. You control every minute of it. You get every minute of it. You get to choose the entertainment you watch, or how we connect with each other, or the music we listen to, what and where and how we buy things. And we run a big event that's an event of love that we run at Conductor every year, where we bring folks in the industry together. And I say the same thing every year. And I actually just put a clip together of what I say. So we're just going to play this real fast. What do people do when they have choice? They choose content over ads. They choose content over ads. The days of paying for your customers' attention as the only way to get in front of them, those days are over. The new customer has choice, and when people have choice, what do? They choose content over ad. But now people have choice, and if you give them value, whether it's in an ad or it's in content, they'll go through it, and if you don't, then they won't. You can't buy attention. You have to earn it. You have to earn it. And the only way to earn attention is by giving someone something valuable. And marketers can keep trying to push and buy people's time, but it is getting more expensive, and the results keep going down and down and down. Buying an audience is really a losing strategy. People have been avoiding advertising every year more and more. People are asking for help more than ever before. They're asking Alexa, they're searching on Google, they're searching on YouTube. So we clearly have been saying this, and I think that in this pandemic, and hopefully as we come out of this pandemic, the urgency of this message is like so much more than it's ever been, right? The customer is 100% in control, and it's almost impossible to buy attention. You have to earn it, and we all have to act now. And if you're working at a company, and your company's not acting, we need to get the tools to convince them. If you're running a marketing organization, it's a great opportunity. And as I think about it, as the door of buying attention closes, there's another great door that opens, right? And I think that the opportunity that we have right now in our community is maybe the biggest opportunity that we've ever had in marketing. And it comes back to search, right? So it's crazy. There's 23.6 billion searches happening every day. And it accounts for more than half of all the traffic on the internet. So that's like if you take all the movies and cat videos and Fortnite battles and e-commerce transactions and all the crazy stuff that happens on the web, search is bigger than all of it. It's pretty much, we don't do anything in our lives without asking Google or YouTube or Alexa, especially when it comes to buying stuff, B2B, B2C. There's 300,000 searches that happen, per second, and it's human beings are asking for help, and it's really profound. But there's a big misperception, right? It's not that Google and YouTube, for example, are the ones actually providing the answers to these questions. The people who provide the answers to these questions, it's the creators, it's content marketers, it's nonprofits, it's businesses, it's likely all of you and the companies that you work for, the companies that you represent. You know, you can't buy attention, but you can really earn it, and it's better. And when you actually find a way to help people by being on the other side of their searches, you can grow your traffic, you can build trust, and create a really big competitive advantage. And I think that's why we as marketers and marketing organizations, from the CMO down to everyone else, right, we have to figure out how to bring value to the front of the process. And this is what for folks who've been in the SEO industry for a long time, I mean, this is what we've been doing. I just think maybe haven't always thought about it this way. Now why this is possible is because your companies have great wisdom. When you think about the days from like when your founders started your companies to today, you know, you've been building expertise, you've been solving problems, you've been finding out what works and what doesn't work and learning from mistakes. And in many cases, your organization is in the best position of anyone in the whole world to answer the problems that your customers are searching for, or the products that you sell. So it's really a great time to think about how do you channel the wisdom of your organization into every aspect of your digital, from the content you create to even like the words on your product pages. And at Conductor, you know, we have a mission, and it's about empowering brands to use their marketing to be a force for helping people. But this is not a Conductor thing, right? This is something that I think every marketer can have as their North Star about, you know, it's about doing marketing that actually helps people. And it's not just because there's a higher purpose, but it's because this is how you'll drive sustainable results and revenue. And I think it's a big way about how we can all adapt to this new digital future that we have. So, you know I've been talking, and I'd love to, you know, share a story from a customer who has been doing some really incredible work, especially amongst the pandemic. And it's Johns Hopkins Medicine. So I'm going to play a short clip from their marketing team.
I'm Gabriel Gennaro. I work with Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. We're a freestanding children's hospital on the west coast of Florida and a full member of Johns Hopkins Medicine with about 4,000 employees. We were really kind of doing not really optimization, search engine optimization, kind of do no harm search engine optimization, where we made sure that a lot of the technical things were straightened out, but we really weren't focusing on using it strategically until members of our team were hired. I think the first thing that we did was find out some of the things that we were doing harm, get those technical items fixed. But one of the best things that we did was we moved away from sort of general thinking just about SEO from a brand perspective and really getting into using it specifically to try and drive traffic to service line content. It's really foundational in the process. SEO has got to be there from the very beginning, because it's in the conversations that we have when we talk to our service line people, and our job is to map the words that they use, the language that they use to meet their particular needs onto the language that our patients and families are looking for and the language that they use. We've had great results in search engine optimization. This is our first year, so I'm just have compared, you know, this February against last February. But we've more than doubled our search traffic coming from organic to the website, and to some of our strategic content, to our articles, we've actually, we're doing like 500 times the page views that we were doing last year from organic. So the results have been fantastic.
So love the story from Johns Hopkins, but you know, this is not just for you know, medical institutions, right? This applies to all verticals and all business models, right? Flashing on my screen is a pretty incredible piece of content that the team at Casper, the mattress and home and sleeping company, created. So they realized, like, over the pandemic that, one, more people were buying a whole bunch more mattresses, and two is that they were getting a lot of pets. And as a result, people were Googling like help around their pets peeing on their mattresses. They created this piece of content, and it went from not existing to being the #1 most trafficked page on their entire website, which is pretty profound considering how much attention the company like Casper gets. Another example, and this is from another customer of ours, Prudential. So, also relating to the pandemic, they realized that there were a lot of questions and new types of questions relating to life insurance. And, they saw spikes in these kinds of questions. So they took some content that they already had and they actually repurposed it and added new FAQs to it around things specifically related to the pandemic. And they saw over 200% increase in the same exact piece of content from the changes they made. And, it resulted in helping a lot more people with getting information, but also a significant amount more quotes for their product. So, I mentioned when we started our company a long time ago as a link building company, and it's interesting reflecting because the days of when you can just like add keywords to pages and get some high page rank links, I mean, those days are long gone. And thank God, because the new model for showing up in a search engine is actually about helping people and getting the best content. And it's something that we tell our customers here at Conductor every day and every month, which is there's only one algorithm that matters, and that's the heart, the mind, the soul of the customer. The only way to win people's attention and to perform is to give them the best content, to give them the best answer, to be the best. And that's really the essence of organic marketing. And what's interesting is that showing up #1 or #2 or #3 in a search engine, that used to just mean like, wow, we're #1, we're going to get a lot of free traffic. But it's much bigger than that because the search engine has become the judge, the ultimate judge of the quality of your products and your position in the market. So if you're showing up on top, people see you as a market leader. If you're on the second page, they think you're not a market leader. They think you're in second place. And that applies to if there's an analyst doing research or reporter writing about your category. They look at what writes up on top. So it's the value of showing up is just more important than I think it's ever been before. Okay, so that's the first half of this presentation, and it's really building the case as to why this is so important. And some of you may be just nodding your heads and be like, I know this. Okay, what should we do about it? And others might be trying to get folks moving over. But now let's talk about why organic marketing is different and how that leads to you doing things that are different to be successful. And as I've said, we've learned a lot at Conductor, and we have maybe the largest research effort in the world to try to dissect the best companies, the ones that get year-over-year gains every year, and figure out what's their formula, what's their recipe. And I think it brings us back to some fundamentals about what makes organic different than like traditional marketing. So a couple of these big components. One is that traditional marketing, it's a lot about spending money. It's deploying capital, whether it's on TV ads or buying digital media campaigns. Organic is not about spending money. It's about doing stuff. It's about lots of little pieces of work. Matt, you can't go to your SEO team and say, hey, give me 10 million of SEO next week. It doesn't work that way. Traditional marketing is about these big campaigns. We're going to do big four seasonal campaigns. Organic is about these little micro campaigns, tens or hundreds or thousands of these micro campaigns that are happening every single day. And these micro campaigns are not being generally they're not being outsourced by to an agency who just does it all for you. It's being done by big marketing teams. Marketing teams are growing. They've got content people, they've got SEO people, they've got merchandisers, they've got e-commerce teams, web developers, and all of these people are actually doing SEO. Some are doing it bad, some are doing it great, but they're all, anytime you make a change to your digital presence, you're doing SEO. And you're doing all this kind of stuff. I mean, this is like a very small version of the menu of all these little micro things that we do as organic marketers, right? We make title changes and meta changes and content, and we create content and fix content. All of this stuff is how you manage your organic presence. And what we learned, the first big piece of insight that we learned, there's probably one thing you could take away from this presentation, is that the companies that had the best results, they were the ones who were able to get the most amount of stuff done. So their velocity in terms of the amount of these micro things they can get done and the quality, so not just getting stuff done, but getting good stuff done. not just changing title tags, but getting really good title tags that are meaningful and people want to click on them. As an example, they were able to get the more velocity they had, the better their results. And that's why when I sit with CMOs of all size companies, I always say, measure how long it takes for your team to get stuff done. And if it's slow, and help them go faster, because if you can get it faster, you're going to get better results. Now, I know also from talking to customers, and I have a question just for all of you in a second. We know this stuff's not easy, right? Every day there's all kinds of obstacles, like stuff that I hear all the time, right? My SEO team doesn't have story points for the development team, or our content team only cares about brand, or the leadership needs immediate ROI, or else we can't do it. Or maybe it takes forever to make a change on the site. The list goes on, and I get it. And just out of curiosity, I'd love to ask some of you all, what are some of the biggest struggles and challenges that you have with respect to organic growth and organic marketing? So I think we're going to deploy a poll, and would love to see some of the results.
Absolutely, deploying now. So the poll has launched. We try to get at least 70% to 80%, hopefully, of you voting on this. So go ahead and review, and I'll run through it. What is your biggest organic growth struggle? Is it producing enough content, getting changes made to your site, convincing your boss for more money or budget, and getting other teams to consider SEO in their workflows? So it looks like about almost 60% of you have already voted. Some interesting results thus far.
It's
give a little bit more time to do so.
One leader coming around.
Yeah, it looks like it. And it's a pretty beneficial answer too. All right, we're at 71%. Going to give you a couple more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and close the poll and share the results.
I got to take a picture of that.
Yes, correct.
So should it?
Producing enough content is the biggest struggle, followed by really tight getting changes made to the site and getting other teams to consider SEO in their workflows. And then finally, convincing the boss for more money or more budget. Any thoughts on that, Seth?
Yes. By the way, what can you see on my screen here? There we go. Are you seeing the slides?
Not anymore, no.
What do you see?
I just see you. Nothing shared on the screen.
Okay, I gotta share screen too. Okay, how's that?
I'm not seeing anything yet.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. We're back. You're back officially.
Yeah. So my thoughts on that? It's super interesting. I think I mean, although producing enough content, I think that's a good answer. I think 5 years ago it would have been some of the other stuff, but I think the best part about not producing enough content is that is actually one of the places you can throw money at, right? So, I always say, don't outsource your content creation like your wisdom. Get the wisdom from everybody who works at the company. So if you've got product managers that know about the problem, then go to your product managers. But you can get third parties, you can get agencies, you can get content creation firms. This is something you can definitely scale up. So that does become a money thing, versus like convincing your boss for more money. That's got its own set of challenges that you can approach on. But and then getting changes made to your site, that's a super difficult problem. And I know it's something we work hard on trying to help our customers with. But super interesting. Thanks for sharing all that. And I think the thing is, in spite of all the challenges, you can't give up, right? You can't just let the challenges be a blocker, because this is like a slide that we use when we talk to new companies all the time, and it ends up looking like, hey, there's 100 million people who search for the products you sell and the problems you solve, but you only show up 1% of the time. And then they're like, well, we're the market leader. We've got we're the #1 company in the world at X. But if people can't find you, it's not going to be like that forever. So you got to figure out how to get better. And we created a framework at Conductor, just a maturity framework for helping you get through this, which I'm going to share some of the highlights of it. And it's super important to just think about this whole journey as an evolution, right? Going from one step to the next. We actually have a customer company called Brawnability. It's a pretty cool company. And the woman Ashley has a really their head product manager has a really cool story about some of their evolution. I just want to share that for a couple minutes here. So I'm going to pop Ashley up on the screen.
My name's Ashley Bentledge, and I'm the Associate Digital Product Manager at Bronability. And Bronability has been the leading creator of wheelchair accessible vehicles. We launched the current website on December 19th, 2018. At that time, we were just surviving and we were seeing lackluster stats regarding organic sessions. But as of last week, we have seen an increase of 212% since we launched our site. At Bronability, we went through this process, and it's not a process that's going to happen overnight. We had to work to create a solid technical foundation. It's like your house. If you don't have a good foundation for your house, your walls are going to crack. And we wanted to make sure our new website had a solid foundation, so we were set up for success. Our next step was to develop new content for our website to build upon that solid foundation. We created a content calendar, and one of our first steps was to go into the site and update our blog, because that's where most of our content lived. And then we were able to use the Searchlight tool to see how much that work increased our organic sessions. So with that data, we were able to start evangelizing SEO within the company.
Yeah, so as I said, lots of different challenges that we all have. So I mentioned earlier, right, that speed was the number one learning that we had. The companies who got the most done, who were the most agile. So that was something we kind of hung our hat on here for a long time, and spent a lot of time, just figuring out how we can help our customers move faster. But then we went and took it like a step deeper, and we're like, okay, for the companies that are moving quickly, what is it about them that gets them so they can move fast? And we found it came back to like these four kind of pillars, right? Their people, their processes, their technology, and their metrics. And I'm going to go through just some highlights from each of these elements. And as I've said, we have a big white paper that has very specific details on all of this. So the first part is people. And I think many of you probably know this, but organic's a team sport, right? It's not about one person doing something. It's about everyone who touches digital collaborating and working as a team, the SEO team, the content team, the web team. Yet, we often find these teams are not collaborating, and not, it's not necessarily because they're not, people are not friends with each other, but they've got different bosses, they've got different goals, they've got different ways that they're measured. But the best companies were the ones where the teams are really aligned around the customer needs. So everybody was focused on, okay, what do our customers need and how can we solve that? And that made its way down to the weekly sprint planning and the content calendaring, and it really, folks were really aligned and working together. So, I think that's a root cause, right? Can you get people aligned and working together? It's interesting for all of you, right? Like when you think about the content and SEO teams, and it's interesting because 41% say not producing enough content, but what is the biggest, what is the relationship like between your content and your SEO teams? And we have another poll that we're going to light up here, and would love to, can't wait to see what everyone has to say.
All right, and launching now. Hopefully we get you back after we launch this. So let's go.
Yes.
What is the relationship between your content and your SEO teams? We got 72% of you voting last time or answering last time. Let's see if we can beat that, right? So what's the relationship between your content and SEO teams? We collaborate on everything and have well-established process. We sit in silos and rarely talk, maybe even different floors of the building or different buildings as well. What teams? I'm a one-person show. So if everyone can please vote or please answer, what's the relationship between your content and SEO teams? This is really interesting to me, Seth, because most of what I work on, there is a very direct relationship between both. And what I have found is when there's not, there's just a disconnect. One's working on something, one's working on something else, or maybe content falls under social media or brand or something like that, right? So let's get these coming in. We have 75% of you have voted. I'm gonna go ahead and close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Closing and sharing the results. 45% say what teams? I'm a one-person show. Okay. 40% collaborate on everything and have well-established process across the board. Then 15% of our attendees today sit in silos, and the content and the SEO teams rarely even talk. Hiding the results. Back to you. We see your screen. Would love to hear your thoughts on those answers.
Yeah, no, well, one is on the first 40% that we collaborate and everything. That's amazing. So that's, again, I love seeing the progress in the industry. The 15% we sit in silos and rarely talk. I mean, it's today could be the day, right? Start a conversation, set up a Zoom meeting, send a bottle of your favorite wine and say, let's chat about how we can work better together. That may sound funny, but I've heard real stories of things changing down. Like, have a meeting and say, hey, you want this and we want that. How can we align together? How can you get leadership to maybe give some shared goals? And then what teams? I'm a one-person show. I hear you. I mean, hopefully as we build our companies, we can get some more help. But if you're a one-person show, then there are, there's definitely a lot of good vendors and agencies and sort of microservice providers that can give you, I can give you 3 pieces of content every week, and I think it gets some help ultimately, or get some results and then get some help. But one thing as I see is sometimes executives at companies, they think that just because they hire one person, they've got everything. And I think they need to realize it's not just one person. You need to have content, you need to have technology, you need to have all of these pieces, or else it's very hard to get to be successful. So just closing in here on the last big buckets, right? So your process, okay. So let's say your people do collaborate on everything, right? So for the 40% of you, but collaborating is one thing, but how are the processes that help in the workflows that actually get stuff done fast? So you could be collaborating together, but if your legal review takes 6 weeks, or it takes you 8 weeks to update a meta tag on your site, the process is broken. So what we recommend is try to break down where in your workflows do things take a long time. Is it an approval process? Is it a technology limitation? And it's almost like playing like a whack-a-mole or something, about how to break down the issues and get rid of these bottlenecks, so you can ultimately move things a little faster. Because again, if you're doing thousands of micro campaigns a year, if you can make each one faster, you can get more done, you can get better results. Now, the last 2 things are metrics, right? Most of the time when we talk to companies, they're like, well, how do you measure your organic search? They're like, well, we look at like our traffic year over year. And I would say, well, if your traffic grew 50%, you'd probably be pretty psyched. But let's say the whole market grew by like 300%. So people were searching 6 times more, but your traffic only went up by 50%. You wouldn't be so excited about that anymore. So it's really important to look at your share of the whole pie. And that's one of the cool things we can do, is that we can look at how many people search for what we do, the search volume of all the different potential keywords, or just a sample set, and how often do we found up. And I think it's so important to get this into the institutional way that you do reporting. And the last piece is technology. And we've got another poll relating to this coming up in a second. But I think when we look at the companies that are doing great, it's very different than the ones who aren't. The ones who aren't, we tend to have lots of different tools. They got like 10 different things that they use. There's usually one person who knows how to use them. None of the tools talk to each other. If someone leaves the company and then all of a sudden they're starting from scratch, it doesn't create that sustainable culture where everyone's engaged. And then when you think about like a merchandiser or a content creator, they don't have any tools, right? They're just flying blind when someone's got a product that does some stuff. And I'm curious on all of you, right? So when it comes to SEO, organic marketing, what kind of tools are you all using? You're using platforms, you're using small stuff, you're using basic things, right? We've got a couple options here for you to select from, and Lauren will light it up.
Absolutely. So we're all launched. And again, what organic marketing technology do you use? Do you use an enterprise platform? Use a bunch of small tools, all grouped and bundled together. A bunch of different logins and everything else. Do you use no technology? Use an agency instead who handles all your technology for you. Or what technology does Excel or possibly even Google Sheets count as technology? So please go ahead and answer. It's probably one of the quickest ones out there. We have almost 65% of you have voted. Going to do a quick countdown in a second. But again, do you use an enterprise platform, a bunch of small tools, no tech, you use an agency instead? And then does Excel count? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. About to close the poll. And sharing the results. So it looks like the bulk majority, Seth, at 55%, uses a lot of small different tools across the board. 31% in an enterprise platform. 3% don't have anything in-house, they just depend on their agency. So that's kind of interesting. And then 11%, what technology does Excel count as technology? So interesting results there. Any thought on the difference between the suite or collection of small tools versus utilizing an enterprise platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got some good news for the people who don't use anything, right? So we're gonna share something with everything. It's something we created that's for free for everyone, so you can at least have something beyond Excel. And there are actually some good free things available. You know, I think we have some great vendors and technology companies in our space that create some free stuff. So there is help out there. Just look for it. You know, and then for the folks who are using small tools, right? I mean, this is the way everybody starts. You've got a deep crawl, you've got a SEMrush, you've got a link tracking tool, you've got your analytics tool, you've got a bunch of different things, and then you've got enterprise platforms. Obviously, if you're not, you know, if you're starting to build a real operation where you've got content teams, web teams, digital teams, e-commerce teams, there's a lot of value. Now, full disclosure, right? I'm super biased here in some aspects because I'm the founder of a company that makes enterprise SEO platform and organic platform. Now, for the companies that it makes sense, and most of our customers tend to be companies that are over 750 employees and they're really growing. But the big difference, right, is that we see this all the time, and I said it earlier, is like the small tools, right? Are you able to get everybody using it, right? Can you get the content teams and merchandisers and everybody else using it, or is it just for you, right? And when you have a platform that does it all, and we've got at Conductor, we've got over 100 engineers that are just building this every single day, and we're not anywhere near where we want to be in the long term, but it's about bringing all these things together so you can do your customer research, you can investigate the competition. Every time you make a change to your site, it can get annotated, and then you can measure it, and then you can go back to the merchandiser or the content person and say, hey, this content brief resulted in a great piece of content, and all of this integrates with your analytics and your CMS system. That's the sort of dream about having a system. It really creates more sustainable change. But I think using tools is great, and then you just want to, as you grow, you want to think about evolving your tools, right? And in particular, as you're getting more revenue, it's not something to be cheap with. I mean, if you're doing $30 million a year in revenue on organic, I mean, in every place else in your business, you probably have a lot of technology and tools that are helping you. It's not a place to cut corners on. Like, actually, here's something cool. Like, this is from the Chrome extension from Conductor, and when you're like, this is Casper's website, but when you're looking at a page, you can just hover over a keyword, and then we'll tell you what the right words to use are. So you can see in this example, the page is about foam pillows, but memory foam pillows actually gets almost 10 times the amount of search volume. And this is something that we created for all the non-sophisticated people to get good research right on the fly. They don't have to go and email their SEO person or log into Google AdWords or something like that. And the cool thing is, it's free. So we made this product. It's something we love, that we are really excited to hear. And it's everyone here, you can screenshot the URL here and you can download this for free. There's no strings attached. It's an unlimited trial. You can use it for as long as you want. It's a big part of our commitment to the community is sharing the stuff that we've created. And it's a great product that I'd love for you all to try. It's definitely, I mean, we've got more people using it now than we do anything else we have. So when you think about these elements, right, you've got people, you've got process, you've got tech, and you've got metrics. my goal here was not to overwhelm you and be like, oh my God, we got to go do all this stuff. But I think it's about, it's about making progress. So, pick a place you want to get better. Is there a part of your process you want to get faster? Can you buy that bottle of wine and make better friends with your head of content marketing? Can you convince that executive to think about a different way of measuring things? But pick a place where you want to start making a change, and then push the ball forward. And if you can get better every day, every week, every month, every quarter, you're really gonna make a difference. And bringing it back to where I started, right? Do we wanna go the way of the dinosaur, right? Or do we want to evolve to meet the moment? And if we do, it's such a spectacular time. SEMrush, which is a company in our space, right, for small businesses, they just went public and they're having lots of success. And organic marketing is just becoming really important now. So for you all as the leaders of this, you have to step up your game and you have to make progress and ultimately, be the bird. That's the goal. Be like the bird. As I mentioned, we have this maturity assessment that we have where we actually will assess your whole practice. It's all for free. We're almost done creating it, but you can just put your name on a waiting list and we'll send you the link to do it when it's ready. And we'd love to get you to sign up. Again, it's completely free and it's something we do. And then if you ever want to reach out to me, if I can ever be useful or helpful to you, I'd love to be helpful. Here's my LinkedIn. And I'm happy to take any questions or entertain any thoughts. And just thank you for having me. It's been an honor to spend some time with you all, even though I can't see any of you.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure. And we have some questions that have come in. So I'm going to start with those. And then for those of you that are still with us, please go ahead and ask anything as it pops up in your head, especially anything not only about the information that Seth gave us earlier, but also anything on the content production, how content syncs with SEO, working with teams, or any specific questions about Conductor. So first question that comes in is kind of interesting. It's from an agency or a consultant that has a client who's in the insurance agency or the insurance space, highly regulated, lots of oversight, lots of legal overview, and they're having a problem actually publishing new article content or blog content on the insurance site or blog. They're putting together a proposal about writing content and sharing on various other third-party platforms, such as Medium and LinkedIn. How effective is that at the end of the day? And any other suggestions that you may have on third-party platforms and or building the business case to actually host content directly on the insurance company's website?
So I love this question. So we actually have a significant amount of large financial services, insurance companies, Travelers Insurance, New York Life, the Hartford. I mean, there's a big list of them that all use Conductor. I shared actually the Prudential example in this, and I remember a couple of years ago just being at their office and we were talking about the legal process. And the thing to remember is that these companies have set up processes for the old way of doing marketing. Hey, we're gonna have an ad in the newspaper. We're gonna do a commercial. So they have this legal process. But when you're in the world of making like lots of pieces of content or making changes to content or making title tags, you need a different process. So what I say in a meeting, and I've said this to our customers, is like, if you're gonna have a legal process that doesn't allow you to do any of this stuff, like you're gonna die, right? Like you can't succeed in this new world. And I think it's worth getting your champions to fight that battle and say, how can we have a legal process that's different for title tags than it is for a Super Bowl commercial, right? It has to be different. So I think that's a noble battle, and it's one that if you can win, and when you do win, it would really make like the Prudential example that I shared, it wouldn't have been possible if they didn't have a different process. In terms of third parties, I mean, third parties could be really good. I mean, you can put something on Medium and that can rank in Google. Obviously, it doesn't have all the attribution back to your site, and you can't get all the analytics. But something we do at Conductor is when you use our platform, you can plug in your website, but you can also plug in like your YouTube pages, your Twitter profiles, your Medium blog posts. you can take all your content and then track your digital presence holistically instead of just your websites, because that's ultimately how you should think about it. You know, one last example I'll share, which I think will be cool for everyone listening. We have a customer that has an article that was written about their product in Business Insider, right? It was like a editorial about how they make sheets, how their sheets are so good. They actually buy media, and instead of sending the media to their website, they send the media to the Business Insider page because it converts better than their own website. So I think you can think about the whole web and all the platforms as your sort of collective distributed presence. But that being said, get that legal process better, or else it's gonna you know, make you end up like a dinosaur.
That's a really interesting point about the Business Insider example and sending traffic there. Sometimes having someone else talk about you, that's an authority, is much more influential than you talking about yourself. One thing that I would add is that, you know, Google's preference on expertise, authority, and trustworthiness is extremely important, especially when it comes to company blogs, what's published on the site, things like that. I've found that has helped move the needle in terms of getting legal approval for the addition of new content, just really building out those business cases and things along those lines. Something else that's worked for me as well in the past, especially on the insurance side and the car insurance side, is when we can't get legal approval to publish on the site itself, setting up, as opposed to setting up a Medium account, setting up a brand new website, and keeping in mind that down the road you may have the ability to redirect that new site over to the client site in the future, right? So maybe setting up, if you're in the auto insurance field, perhaps setting up a third-party auto safety or car safety site, or just car enthusiast site that you can use to market, get in that inbound link portfolio that we all love, link directly from there to your client site, and or the ability down the road to maybe transfer that content over. Of course, that content would have to go through legal approval as well, but that also helps. Also, another thing to keep in mind that most attorneys that are doing legal approval of content, they get paid to say no, and they get paid to mark up papers and things like that. It's very, very seldom that on the first swing, you're gonna hit a home run with legal, right? So keep that in mind. It can be a very small ball style equation where getting those initial feedback wins those no's over time. The more you press and the more you champion that content strategy internally, can turn into a win down the road. So don't give up on that side, even if you do find that you're writing through a Medium or a LinkedIn, or maybe even you're leveraging that third-party content, as Seth said in his example with Business Insider, to send traffic to as well. So that's kind of interesting. I have another question that's come in. It seems that a lot of content strategy now is all built around optimizing and writing pieces that answer questions, right? So if everyone's going to a tool, a keyword research tool that says, hey, these are the most popular questions or the most search volume oriented questions about a product or industry, and basically writing all of the same articles, answering all of the same questions, how do you stick out from that equation? Is there a way outside of just the inherent authority of a site to make an article or blog piece or content piece better and more, I guess, authoritative than maybe your competitors may be doing?
Yeah, great question. Share some thoughts. So it's a zero-sum game in the sense that there's, you know, if someone's searching for something, there's only so many answers, right? There's not unlimited spots available. At the same time, there is incredible amount of diversity in how people ask questions, and they ask new questions in new ways every day. So it's a constant change. Showing up, this is good news and bad news. The bad news is that if you have a great website and you're really credible, you're not going to just be able to lean on that to show up. The good news is that it's very democratized. So if you have the best answer, then you're going to get the best results. I mean, that's where the search engine is and going. So you could be a small little company, but you have a really great answer. And what is a great answer being? It doesn't mean that it's right. It means that it's right. It's written in the best way. It's formatted. It's the best content. There's so much to know to understand who's answering the question, how they want it answered, and what makes the great piece of content. So there's a lot of competition in creating great content and creating great answers, and then also really being smart about the kinds of questions people are answering and how they're answering them. I think that's there's a long way to go. And this is one of the things I love about what we do is like we've created an incentive system for people to chase helping people by giving them answers to their content. And I think when you think about where marketers came from to now we're chasing giving people answers to questions, I mean, that's a good place for us as marketers to be. Any thoughts, Lauren?
Yeah, it is a good place. It just seems much more natural and much less forced at the end of the day. I was watching a video earlier in the week, and it was basically a simple explanation between generational behavior and searching Google, right? So us, I guess, Gen Xers and maybe even boomers that were around when during the Hotbots and Lycos and Google launching periods of the late 90s tend to search in keywords, whereas younger adults that have grown up with the internet and have grown up with voice search and Alexa and Siri and everything else tend to search in questions. So it also matters in terms of like what the demographic you're hitting, and then also trends as voice search and Siri and everything else become just more popular and more integrated into people's well-being, searching for questions as well. And Google also drives this down. Like Google will make a simple change in their search results that basically changes the way that everyone in SEO works, right? So when Google integrated featured snippets and the Q&A made Q&A more powerful, made scannability more powerful, made bulleted points and bulleted answers more powerful, suddenly the entire search industry started writing for featured snippets, right? Google integrates people also ask, pushes it up to the top of the results, suddenly everyone starts writing questions and answers. So Google's definitely going in that direction. They're influencing not only the way that we write, but also the way that people search. And it's good to stay on top of that, obviously. One interesting point that came up in the chat or the question box just now is someone is utilizing Haro, help a reporter out. Shout out to Peter Schenkman for gathering ideas. And they also have found that it's a great way to get on top of content before their competitors do, which leads me to the next question. So one thing I see a lot of in Haro is traditionally non-journalistic sites now utilizing it to find experts to comment, right? So maybe Wallet Hub, perhaps some other lead generation health-oriented sites. It's not just the bloggers and the journalists of the world going to Haro to ask questions to get people to answer, but it's also transactional oriented sites. Besides Haro and besides, are there any other techniques that you would recommend for bringing in experts to either guest blog, guest answer, or participate in a site itself to help with the site's overall and that content's overall authority and expertise?
Well, one idea, I mean, I like it's a little different than those, is that I mean, for companies that are sort of medium sized and larger, you have a lot of experts who work at your company. So these experts are often not on the marketing team. They could be engineers, product managers, executives. So if you can create ways to harvest their wisdom, whether it's by interviewing them and profiling them or just taking notes from them and then using that to create content, I think that's a great place to start when it comes to just leveraging expertise to grow your presence. There's a lot, we all have more expertise than we realize inside of our companies.
That's a good point, and that's also actually a good answer to a lot of questions that came up with maybe they don't have much budget or limited budget with producing content. There is a lot of internal expertise within companies, as opposed to maybe hiring experts or thought leaders. One thing that I've done in the past years ago is just working with the customer service team to find out what people are actually asking and then what the company is answering, which is also beneficial as well from a keyword level. Sometimes it's very common for companies and industries to use internal lingo as opposed to the lingo that their customers may be using as well. Question that came in, a couple of different viewers are, well, this is kind of a softball question, Seth. A couple of them are currently have been asked by their bosses to identify new SEO tools or new SEO suites to utilize. And do you have any tips on the decision-making process while going through those tools and defining which tools to utilize that budget for the rest of the year?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of stuff out there. I mean, I think like places like G2 Crowd and Trust Radius, it's a great place to find things and also to read reviews. I think that's always good, and I always recommend just talking to companies who use products and services, right? So I think that's really helpful, and trying to find something that has good experience. I would say, I think again, I am biased here in that this is what we do, but it's really like, look at the big picture. How much money is at stake? How much money are you making? How much money will you make? How much money could you lose? And don't be cheap about it. I know at Conductor, like we're not a I think from SEMrush's S1, right? Their average customer spends about $1,800 a year, and it's a great value for that. And that's it's a great product, gives you a little bit of everything. But if you're an enterprise, right, like you really shouldn't be running an enterprise business on a small business platform. You should have an enterprise platform, and that there's a significant difference. Everything from having single sign-on to dashboarding to reporting to analytics integration with Adobe, and there's so many things that we do here, just like focusing on enterprise. And then if you are looking at enterprise companies better than like Conductor, like why Conductor versus someone else? I mean, I'm not going to talk negatively about our competitors, but I would say Conductor has the biggest, by far, like almost by 3x, the engineering team in the whole industry. I mean, actually, for those of you who know our story, we sold the company to WeWork in 2018, and then we bought it back in 2019. And I've been the founder and the CEO the whole time. And we're like early days, so we're pouring $15 to $20 million a year in R&D in our product, when I think all of our competitors are like at the end of their cycle where they're trying to just like make profits and stuff. So we're like early days investing, and when you buy a platform, you want to have a company, you want to have one that gets better every month and every 90 days. You don't want to have something that was built 8 years ago and is not really changing much. So I think looking at the innovation cycle and the innovation roadmap should be a big consideration before you make a big investment.
That's really interesting, and it's great to hear. It's great to hear a company that's been around for so long is still treating yourselves like a startup. So that's pretty amazing. Is there anything else that, sorry?
Yeah, I said, Jeff Bezos always says day one, right? Like you have to act like it's just the beginning. And I think for us, we're just the beginning. I mean, it's early for our innovation cycle.
Is there anything else besides all of your innovation that makes Conductor better than other platforms out there on the market right now?
Well, with Conductor, it's the technology. So I think by far it's the most comprehensive, and it's the one that's growing the fastest in terms of the innovation. But then we have another 85 people who work at the company that work with our customers as partners. We're not shy in helping. So we have a whole strategy template and a success plan, and you get a lot of hands-on service that we don't charge like for a fee for. It's part of working with us, and it's really to ensure that you're successful, and that is helpful no matter how sophisticated you are. It's good to have someone who can give you benchmarks from your competition, from other industries, who can show you best practices, who can give you an outside perspective on your strategy. And that's something that we do for all of our customers. We give them 24-hour, high quality support. I mean, there's a lot we do because we we want to make sure we're always there for you and that we're helping you just push the ball forward. So I think that's also important criteria is thinking about the kind of support you're going to need.
That is important. Support and customer service is sometimes very overlooked on the technology side of things.
Absolutely.
And I've heard the same exact feedback from my enterprise clients that utilize Conductor. So not only, go ahead.
I was just saying, like Forrester, G2 Crowd, Trust Rate, we're #1 in service. We're #1 in actually all the vectors, but that's a big thing. That's something we've always done well. And for us, we're not trying to optimize our P&L here. We're trying to, I wear this shirt every day, customers first, and it's about helping our customers. And we're really willing to do whatever it takes to make their success successful because, that's just the way we run the company.
Absolutely. Seth, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for dropping in today.
Thank you, Lauren. Thanks for all you do for our industry. You've been cranking away and helping this whole industry for a long time. So I really, really appreciate that.
Trying to. We treat SEJ like a startup every day too. Maybe day one, planning, etc., growth. So it's been great. Love it too. Just let everyone know our next webinar is going to be on May 26th with Kevin Rowe from PureLink. We're going to be discussing how to identify site quality for link building. So for those of you who did have link questions, be sure to chime in for that. Seth, will you be joining us for that webinar, you think?
I got to check my schedule, but he's great. He spoke at our conference two or 3 years ago, and he's animated. He does a fantastic job. So he's a great presenter. Yeah,
I agree. And you know what? Kudos for keeping C3 going for the past 2 years, and with everything that's been happening. Just hear all great things about the C3 conference.
We did it live this year, which was very nerve-wracking, but a lot of fun.
It can be. So amazing. Thanks again. Thanks everybody who is still tuned in. As a reminder, we'll be sending out this video and slides and recaps the next few days. Look out for that. And then stay tuned for our next SEJ webinar on May 26th. Again, Seth, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much. And thanks for all of you who joined us today for today's SEJ webinar. Have a good rest of your Wednesday.